Alright, so to continue this series of videos I've been making lately on what I would do if I were to make a movie about a specific character, today we're going to cover Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman isn't a particular character I have sat down a lot and thought about what I would do if I was making a movie for her. Usually it's a lot of Batman for me, sometimes Superman, and I do think a lot about what I would do if I were to make a movie for World's Finest or Trinity or the Justice League. So Wonder Woman was a little bit of a challenge because I didn't necessarily know where I wanted to go. Now, the past couple of weeks, I've had an idea of where I did want to go with her film and what I would do, although there was a very clear issue with it that was simply just holding me back because I didn't have a main villain. Recently, I've been re-watching the Justice League animated series, and in the episode series Fury, it introduces Diana's adopted sister, a character who has not showed up in comic books before, but was specifically made for the cartoon the same way it has worked with Harley Quinn. Although the difference is Harley Quinn has made a huge breakout into the world of comic books after that. Unfortunately for Wonder Woman's adopted sister, it's never really happened. But after watching those episodes, it clued in. I know who I would want to be my very first Wonder Woman villain. Now, if you're not familiar with the episodes, or if you simply just don't remember, basically it's a set of episodes that are centered around Arisia, which is Wonder Woman's adopted sister. Arisia was born in man's world somewhere in Europe, where her country was getting decimated by a war. Escaping with her mother on boat across the ocean, they get raided by pirates, and then the pirates also decided to destroy the boat they were on. After nearly everyone dying, the ship getting destroyed, and Arisia drifting across the sea on a piece of wood, she eventually floats up to the shore of Themyscira, where Hippolyta, Diana's mother, ends up raising her as her own. She is trained in all their arts and is made an honorary Amazonian woman as well. The whole point is that Arisia has never been able to forgive man for what they did to uproot her life as a child, taking away her mother, killing a bunch of innocent people, and essentially she wants to repay man in revenge by killing all of men around the world. So here is a rough draft of what I would want my Wonder Woman story to be about. Essentially, at this point in time, we would have Wonder Woman in modern day America, the modern day world, and she would be getting shown around by Steve Trevor. We obviously get the idea that Steve Trevor has landed on the island and all this background stuff has happened that I would not put into the film because we already have something like that in Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. We don't want to keep repeating the same things over and over again. That doesn't mean you can't flash back to some of it in some way, because that is what this movie would certainly feature. There would be flashbacks of how Diana and Arisia did grow up together, how they got along, and just their relationship as a whole, considering her own adopted sister is going to be the main villain of the movie. Whereas Wonder Woman is reluctantly granted to leave Themyscira and enter man's world, Arisia isn't, from the strict rule of Hippolyta, and Arisia does not agree with this, considering she originally did come from man's world, and now she is being locked down in Themyscira, where her princess sister gets to do something she doesn't get to do. Now, a lot of what you would see in this film is where Wonder Woman learns about man's world and sees the differences of how we live compared to how the Amazonians live in Themyscira. A lot of what would be going through her mind is, are these people worth it? Do they deserve my protection? And do they deserve the same kindness that I would show to my own people? And a lot of it would be Steve Trevor trying to show her that we're not all bad. It's like that end line that Bruce Wayne has in Batman vs. Superman, where essentially he says, we do terrible things, but at the end of the day, we always make up for it. We always do end up coming around and being good people. Now, a big piece of the rift between Diana and Arisia would essentially be a flashback scene you would see to the moment that Diana leaves Themyscira. And the original plan for Diana leaving is because there's an issue Steve Trevor has, and he asks for her help, and then the door is opened for Wonder Woman to leave for man's world, create a new life, and potentially be a savior to humankind, the way we already have in Superman, Batman, and plenty of other characters. But Arisia would have a conversation with Diana before she left, basically talking about how, take me with you, convince our mother, and then when we go to man's world, we can show them how dominant the Amazonians are. We can make them bend to our will. Wonder Woman may battling with this idea that that's not a terrible idea, considering men are kind of a poison to the world. Diana still understands that that's not the person I am, and that's not the person that my mother trained us to be. So no, I won't be doing that. And Arisia basically gets mad at Diana, basically thinking you're betraying the Amazonian way and you are joining man's world, which leaves a very sour taste in her mouth, and the two sisters part ways not on the best of terms. So during the time that Wonder Woman has now been gone from Themyscira, maybe it's been 6 months, maybe it's been a year, Arisia does find a way to leave Themyscira, escape off the island, and go back to man's world without Hippolyta knowing. And of course, Hippolyta would notice that her other daughter is gone, but she doesn't have any feasible way at the moment to contact Diana to let her know. What I would do for Arisia is very similar to the cartoon, but just a little bit of a different variation. The origin story would be very, very, very similar. The only difference is that I would place her origin in World War II, and maybe she lived in a country that Germany just ransacked and trampled over, and Jewish or not, they killed you on sight, so her and her mother had to flee, which she eventually found her way to Themyscira and was granted immortality like other Amazonian women, and that's why almost 80 years later, she still looks like a fresh 20-year-old. Because this hatred for men, and of course hatred for war, which should be first and foremost, but she only attributes it to men, when she comes back to the land of men, she devises this plan to destroy all men. She learns of this very, very, very rare ruby stuck in the ruins of Greece. Somewhere very important, somewhere that served as a very ancient war, and this will actually come back to tie in at the end of the movie. Just like the cartoon, she used these rubies to concoct some sort of gas grenade that would affect all men, slowly killing them. It would work the same way where she would find these rubies in the ancient battleground, and she would essentially have to crack them open and use these magical dustings within the center of these rubies, put it into some sort of container like a gas grenade, let's just say, and they have a wide kilometer range where if you are a man within this range, well, you are likely to perish. So having this knowledge of this man-killing ruby dust, she wants to test it out to actually see if it would work. Maybe some sort of small village or some small town in Europe or America, I don't know, doesn't really matter right now, and she disperses this magical man-killing dust. It is of course successful. She actually does kill all the men in this town or in this village, leaving potentially 1, 2, or even 300 dead. But of course, she doesn't take into consideration that you're not just killing men, but you're potentially leaving a lot of women without their spouses, with their children not having a father, with their mothers losing their sons. You're taking away a lot more than just killing men. And then where it starts to get very, very desperate and very, very bad, it's the fact that this magical concoction does not discriminate. It doesn't just go after men, it goes after boys as well. It goes after children, and it's leaving children very ill and even dying in that small village or town she first tried her weapon on. So now, of course, it would be a situation where Steve Trevor would have to investigate and Wonder Woman would now come along. And now Wonder Woman starts to understand that I don't love the world that men have created here outside of Themyscira. Whether or not my opinions on men are right or wrong, one thing I do know is that children should not be subjugated to this. This is absolutely wrong, and who is responsible? Now, of course, sparing many details, Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor would go on this journey to find out who the culprit is. And there would also be a developing relationship between Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor, where Wonder Woman starts to fall for him and vice versa. Now, I will say this. If there is ever some sort of miracle in my future where I actually get to tell these stories on screen or through some sort of media, I will have to change these ideas, some of them at the very least, because I am now pretty much just leaking my ideas to you. Some things would of course change, some things would stay the same, but let me just tell you right now, this is something that I've had in my mind for a long time when it comes to Wonder Woman. The relationship with Steve Trevor would not last forever. I don't know if I would want to kill Steve Trevor. I'm not exactly sure if I would just want Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor to break up somehow. Their relationship would not be a forever thing. It would just be a starter for Wonder Woman to honestly experience what it's like to be with a man. And she honestly understands what it's like to fall in love with a man as well, even though it might potentially not work with Steve Trevor through a breakup or because of his death, which is something I think I would lean a little more for. Now, moving on, Wonder Woman and Steve would of course find out that Arisia is behind these plots and that she is now planning on going wide scale and dispersing this magical dusting across the entire world. Wonder Woman would have multiple fights with her sister in this, not understanding why she would do something so gruesome, and now the fact that Arisia cannot even return to Themyscira because she is committing a genocide, which is even far more worse than leaving for man's world. At least Wonder Woman leaving for man's world is for a specific purpose. What Arisia is doing will not be tolerated by Hippolyta and the rest of the Amazonians. So having Wonder Woman's very first opponent being a not just sister of hers, but just another Amazonian, it's basically just mirroring herself. She's fighting another version of herself. It's like when Superman fights Zod, or even when Batman fights Red Hood. So by the end of the film, while Wonder Woman has this very epic super strength Amazonian matchup against her sister, Steve Trevor is trying to defuse this man-killing creation. And maybe where they are, just like the cartoon, is this big bomber jet. And this man-killing weapon has been weaponized into missiles. Now, Wonder Woman has the upper hand against Arisia because she is a little bit better than her, but she also has an untapped power. Considering she is a demigod, she does not realize her father is Zeus yet. We will not get to that point in her first film, but of course, Wonder Woman will defeat Arisia. Steve Trevor would disarm these bombs and he would drop them into the ocean below, but due to all the damage this jumbo jet has received through the fight of Wonder Woman and Arisia, the jet does come to a crash landing near or in a, once again, city, town or village. As the jet comes to a crash landing, Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor stumble out of the wreckage. Arisia finds herself in a standoff with Wonder Woman where she actually threatens to kill a boy child, maybe someone who's 10, 12 years old. And she basically tells Wonder Woman, I will never stop. Man must be punished. Here is where Wonder Woman now starts to question everything. Where do my loyalties lie? With my people or with humanity? And she also wonders, what type of lessons are we teaching our people, that this is okay to treat humans like this and to hate men? I know they never go to an extent to treat mankind like this, but Arisia could just be one case of many who take it too far, and we could keep dealing with situations like this. So it is a Superman Zod situation where Wonder Woman now realizes Arisia will never stop. She's going to keep doing this. There are not many prisons on Earth that can keep her held, at least not that she knows of right now, and she takes one of the biggest sacrifices she's ever had. She does some super speed Wonder Woman move, dashes over to Arisia, and kills her own sister. After killing Arisia, Wonder Woman now lives with the thought that she sacrificed her own sister, her own people, for mankind. Mankind will look up to her for that, but it's not like Wonder Woman is betraying the Amazonians. She is simply just doing what is right. Not only did she stop Arisia from killing man, she stopped Arisia from killing a child. Wonder Woman is about truth. And the question is, how do you let somebody get away with actions like this? And the truth is, you can't. Now, to tie things up, what you would see by the end of the movie, or an end credit scene, if my movies would have that, you would end up finding out that this knowledge of the man-killing ruby that Arisia found actually came from conversations she was having with Cersei. And if you know Wonder Woman well, you know that Cersei is this all-time powerful mage who has been secluded to her own little island willingly or unwillingly, and of course has a long-standing relationship with Wonder Woman over her comic books or the Amazonian people in general. Other than Wonder Woman, she has also been very connected to Ares as well, considering I believe they even had a child together sometime in history. Basically, what I would do is, to me, Cersei is Wonder Woman's all-time villain. Whereas Wonder Woman is about truth, Cersei is about deception. And the whole plot to this was Cersei could see through her magical lenses, trapped in her own personal island, that Arisia had a hatred for man, and Cersei also has a solid hatred for man as well. And she used Arisia as this puppet to essentially begin her conquest over man. If I can use Arisia to do it, eventually when I break free from my island prison, I will join her and escalate it on an even bigger scale. Cersei's reasoning behind doing this is because of her hatred for Ares, which then spans to mankind in general, blaming man just based off of the man that Ares is. And my idea is that this ancient Greek battleground, Cersei used these rubies as a weapon against Ares, which actually weakened him. Considering he's a god, he can't die like a normal human, but it at least weakened his power. And at the end of this fight, regardless, Cersei ended up losing and getting trapped for eternity on her own island. But we now know that is not going to last forever, and not only is she coming for mankind, she will be coming for Wonder Woman. But that's it for the main story. Once again, we all know that these movies would be tying into a bigger event like Justice League and bringing all these Justice League characters together. So even if it's nothing big, you would still see things like maybe a newspaper where Superman is lifting up a half-broken building, saving civilians fleeing underneath it. considering Steve Trevor is introducing Wonder Woman to the world and showing her around, maybe there's a scene of them in a store or in a restaurant, and a TV's playing, it's breaking live news, and it's Batman in Gotham City in a high-speed chase against one of his villains. There would be stuff like that that would eventually introduce her into the trinity of Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. But there you have it. That is my idea for a Wonder Woman film if I was to ever make one. Now that it's leaked out to you guys, like I said, I would probably have to change a couple of things, but the main premise is where I would keep it. The heart of the film is what would more than likely stay the same. But anyways, everyone, let me know in the comments below what you think of this. Let me know what some of your ideas would be. And if you haven't yet, check out my film ideas for Superman and Batman. I will have tags for them throughout the video, and they will be in the description below. But that is it for this one, everyone. So until next time, I will talk to you all very soon.